Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Three Men and a PropTech baby, where the great and the good of our business here study some of the best suppliers out there and give our Gogglebox style feedback as we watch it. And we always try to not watch it in advance, so we're seeing it fresh as you do. So today we're going to be looking at Inventory Hive, obviously the inventory specialist. First of all, let me introduce my colleagues. Mr. Paul Morgan, how are you, sir?
Hello. Yeah, good, thank you. Yourself?
Excellent, perfect. Yeah, apart from this rather ethereal glow around me, I don't know whether it's because I watched the Ghostbusters movie or whether we're approaching Easter. But anyway,
don't do any pottery.
Yes. Oh yeah, I've always been described as that. Mr. Richard Durrant,
how are you?
Yeah, good. I'm all good. Yes.
Good.
So, gents, do we have any context around this, or are we going into this blind?
Totally blind.
Blind and dumb. By the way, we were looking at that there. Okay, I should have probably practiced that with you. Paul's got the video though, and that's the most important part of these things. I can see somebody ready to start talking there. So let's kick it off, shall we?
Oh, done my usual technical error of not sharing the sound. Share sound. Okay, here we go.
Hi guys, I'm Mitch Handley from Inventory Hive, and I've prepared this video today for the guys at Kerfuffle, just to highlight how we at Inventory Hive can solve one of the biggest issues letting agents and landlords face during a tenancy, which is obviously a deposit dispute at the end. Before I come on to that and show you how all of that works on Inventory Hive, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what Inventory Hive does. So Inventory Hive is a cloud-based property reporting platform, which can be done via desktop and app, and you can also have the capability of creating 360-degree virtual tours as well as unlimited property inspection reports. So today I'm going to show you how Inventory Hive is designed to help reduce the chance of a deposit dispute through our paperless tenant feedback process. So what is the Inventory Hive paperless tenant feedback process? So what it does is, let me just jump onto this slide here. So how does the paperless Inventory Hive tenant feedback process solve the problem for the landlord and letting agent? So what it does is, it engages with tenants at the start of the tenancy to reduce the chance of a dispute at the end. And it also helps build a positive relationship with the tenant. So I'll come on to that later on and show you some demonstration videos of what the tenant will receive when they get their inspection report, which is created on Inventory Hive. The process is completely paperless, so it helps save on printing costs, and it's also very positive for the environment. And I'm sure everyone is raving about trying to help cut those CO2 emissions down and save the trees, obviously. So that's what we need to do. So the Inventory Hive paperless process helps do that. The signatures, which are captured from the tenants, are all captured digitally. So I'll show you in some short videos how that works as well. The feedback is all audit trailed within the tenants feedback and images. So when a report is pushed through the paperless process on Inventory Hive, the tenant can add in comments and photographs of any issues that they might come across when they move into their property. So this is all audit trailed in the report. So I'll show you an example of how that looks later on as well. It's an automated process, so it helps reduce administration time for the property management team. So it means it saves you chasing up tenants for signatures or feedback or anything like that, when Inventory Hive will send out reminder emails and text messages automatically to the tenant, just to remind them to complete their feedback. So it's a really simple process. I'm just going to jump to this little infographic that Inventory Hive have created. So the paperless Inventory Hive process starts from the inspector or the property manager creating their report on the Inventory Hive platform. So we provide a load of templates. It's really easy to use, and you can create it through the desktop or the Inventory Hive app. Once you've created a report and you've added in your tenant's details, you can push your report through the tenant or occupant cycle. So what it does is, it will send the tenant an email in their native language, so you can send it in English, Chinese, French, German, or whatever language you feel like. And they'll have a number of days to sign to confirm receipt of their report. At this stage, they're not confirming the contents of the report. They're simply signing to confirm they've received their report. So I'll show you exactly how that looks very shortly. They'll also get reminder text messages as well. And then once they've signed to confirm receipt, as the agent, you can hand over the keys to the property and they can move in. And then when the tenant moves into the property, they'll have a set amount of days, which is usually around 7 days, to get moved in, get settled in. They're under no pressure by the agent or landlord to sign off the inventory report. We'll obviously send out reminder text messages and emails as well. So it just helps remind the tenant to provide feedback. The tenant has the option to approve the contents of the report. So if they agree with everything, they can just sign it off digitally. If they want to provide feedback, again, they can add in comments and photographs. But if they fail to respond or don't add in any comments or photographs, then the software will automatically sign off the report with the original signature captured when they sign to confirm receipt of the report. But don't worry, again, we'll send reminder text messages and emails throughout the 7 days. Once that's done, the report cycle is complete. The report is stored on your Inventory Hive account. The tenant will get a copy sent to them automatically through Inventory Hive. So again, saves on the administration time and it saves on printing and costs as well. So what I'm going to show you now is from a tenant's perspective, how all of that looks. So on Inventory Hive, if you do have an account with us, you can access this tenant feedback guide, which you can distribute to your tenants just so they can understand how the process works. So step one, before the tenant moves into the property, they'll be asked to confirm to confirm safe receipt of their inventory report. So this is how it would look on a YouTube video. So let me just jump to it here. Here we go. So once the inspector's completed their inspection report, they'll push it out to the tenant. The tenant will get an email just like this on their they can access it from the desktop or smartphone device just like this. They'll click on the email that they've received from Inventory Hive. So once they've clicked on it, it will outline all the details about what they need to do. So step one is to sign to confirm safe receipt of their report. Again, it highlights it's not to confirm the contents of the report. It will also detail everything why it's important to sign to confirm receipt of their report. So once they're done there, the tenant can sign to confirm receipt of their report. Once they've done that, they'll be able to gain access to the report as well as any pre-arrival documents as well that you might want to attach to the report, such as the how to rent guide, any gas safety certificates, an EPC, for example. So all these pre-arrival documents you can send to your tenant, meaning that they'll be able to gain access to any pre-arrival documents paperlessly as well. So
can you pause it for one moment?
Jump out of these boring adverts.
Just touch on that. I think that's really good. Whereby, if you looked at the tenancy process, when tenants are moving in, it's the most likely time because they want something from you that they're going to engage and ask and do what you ask them to do. And at the end, the checkout process is always awkward for agents. There is no benefit for an agent for delapse from deposits. So you're always in a precarious position because you've got the tenants demanding this, you've got the landlord demanding this. So the ability to have a paper trail of issuing documents is really important, but also telling them what to expect would hopefully minimize any disagreements at the end of a tenancy.
Definitely. Yeah, it looks very comprehensive, doesn't it? I mean, let's not forget as well. These guys did win the well, they won a couple, didn't they? One in their category and the overall supplier of the year at EA Masters. So there's obviously a lot of those scores were made up of the kerfuffle ratings as well, and we see very strong 5-star reviews for them on the website, highlighting again the simplicity but the depth of functionality, and to combine both of those two things is often very different, isn't it? It's easy to have a nice simple system if it's light on functionality, but that's not the case with these guys, clearly, as we're seeing here again.
Yeah,
I wonder where it stands legally from the auto sign. So you sign receipt, and then you get all your documents, and then you have a number of days, the tenant has a number of days to sign to say, yes, this inventory is correct. If they don't sign that within 7 days, I think he said, then it's auto signed.
Yeah.
I wonder where they stand on that.
Well,
I mean, I
no
presume it's the same, someone not signing.
It's exactly the same as somebody not signing it. So more often than not, or historically, you would send them this copy of this inventory in paper, 40 pages, you'd post it out to them, you'd give them a period of time to make comments on it. And more often than not, you're not going to get it returned.
Yeah.
And you're, as long as you're outlining it, you're accepting that the tenant isn't challenging it. So I don't think it's any different from a tenant not returning it.
Do you think it actually gives a bit more clarity to the tenant? Because the tenant not returning it might be, might be a bit ambiguous. With the clarity, it's saying, this will be auto signed. The tenant actually knows that there's a signature on there, so they're more likely to actually look at the inventory.
I think it makes it easier for them. So clearly there'll be a whole host of different ways agents are currently doing it. But if we go back 10 years, you either sent them as an attachment, the inventory in PDF, or you posted it out to them. They would have to look at it. They'd feel it was a massive document. They'd have to go round. They'd have to make notes on it. They'd have to email it back, post it back. I think it just makes it a lot easier for a tenant to make comments on the inventory, which is ultimately, if they're making comments, you can justify them comments at that moment in time. So whether their comment is unfair or whether it's fair, you can make a note on the inventory. And when it comes to that checkout, it's a consideration. But at the moment the tenant moved in, they raised a question around the cleanliness of the fridge. And clearly they've made a comment on the inventory. Whereas if they haven't made any comment because you sent it out in paper form and there's no comment at all, your starting point in that negotiation period would be different from if they'd made a comment.
And the other thing is, because it's going out electronically, it can be sent instantly. So I remember I moved into a tenancy many years ago, and we got the inventory through about 3 days after we moved in. So we didn't know how many knives and forks were there. We'd thrown our cutlery in with it, and just couldn't remember any knives and forks. So of course, when we moved out, we knew by the shape of the cutlery whose was whose. But the fact that there were 7 knives and forks, who knows? And I remember looking at this great big inventory thinking, why didn't we have this before we moved our furniture in?
That's a really good point.
So
I think there's also a question, Paul, whereby from an agent's point, if you claim you send the inventory out in the post and they didn't return it, it's essentially your word versus theirs, but they've probably some document you've given them beforehand to say you'll be sent this. In this, you couldn't be challenged. If you're sending a report out, you're sending an email to tell them what to expect, you're sending them a report and you're sending them reminders. You could never be challenged that you haven't done everything within your power to get the said tenant to read and sign off on the inventory.
Yeah. Crack on.
Yeah.
Go to the next step. So now the tenant has signed to confirm receipt of their report. Step 2 is asking them to provide feedback. So this means they'll be able to go through the report in their own time. Again, they're not under any pressure, and provide some feedback. And they can do this over, for example, you can set it for 7 days. So let me just jump to the next video. And this is how the tenant can provide feedback on the report. So they'll go through the report. They can have a look at any 360-degree photos that you can attach in your inspection reports. It's all done digitally and paperlessly. And you'll notice that under each section, just here, there's the description of what the inspector put in the inspection report. So in this case, in the living room and lounge, the walls were free of marks and stains and scuffs, no picture hooks, raw plugs, and fill holes present. Condition cleanliness is marked as good, but it also asks the tenant, do you agree with the provided details for the walls? It's automatically marked as yes, so the tenant can have a look at the walls in the room, make sure they're happy with that. If they agree with it, they'll just leave it as yes. But if they want to provide feedback on the particular item, so in this case, the radiator, the inspectors noted that the radiator in the living room and lounge is wall-mounted radiators, free of marks and scuffs, all valve caps present and intact. But the tenant might disagree with that when they've had a look at that. So they can tick no, type in the issue that they have found. So for example, there's some dents and scratch marks on the radiator. And then as part of the process, they must supply a photograph of that. So they can take a photograph of the dents and scratches, and this will get added into the inspection report and sent back to the inspector, enabling them to add any additional comments. This just saves administration time, so it just saves the tenant typing up an email and attaching pictures to emails, which means more emails going in the property manager's inbox, when all of this is all audit trailed and easily manageable. So those photographs have gone in. The tenant can carry on having a look through the rest of the report and provide feedback accordingly. So it's a really simple process. If they are happy with the report and they don't provide any feedback, and they've added in some comments, what happens is, once they've gone through the rest of the report and got to the end, they can sign to submit the report. So they'll go through the rest of the report, add in any additional comments and photos if applicable, excuse me, and if they're happy with everything, they'll get to the end of the report and it will ask them to sign to confirm and submit the report. They'll put another digital signature as well. They'll click save and continue, and any feedback will be sent back to the property inspector. But if they're happy, if the contents of the report were all agreed and they didn't provide any feedback, they'll be able to gain access to the final downloadable report straight away. And here it is. So it saves again on administration time. It's all done automatically, and their report can be accessed straight away. So it's a really simple process. The next step is, if the tenant forgets to reply at all and they don't provide any feedback or they don't provide any signatures, a reminder text message and email will be sent, and if they don't reply, the signature from step 1, when they sign to confirm receipt of the report here, will be automatically stamped on the report after 7 days. So it saves you calling up the tenant, asking them to provide feedback when Inventory Hive does that automatically. Again, saving administration and time and cost for you guys. So once that's done, if you did provide feedback, if the tenant did provide feedback on the report will be sent back to the inspector and they'll be able to respond back to the feedback. Again, once the inspector has responded to the comments, the tenant will get another email with their final report, just like this. So here's the example here. An email has been sent. They'll click on the email, they'll click download the report, and it will have all the audit trailed feedback from the tenant's feedback here. So this is the example on a smartphone device, but I'm just going to load up a proper example here. So as you can see, here's the feedback that the tenant added in. So when the tenant said there was some dents and scratch marks, it's all audit trailed in the report at the start of the tenancy, and this is helped to design to reduce the chance of a dispute at the end. Engaging with your tenants at the start of the tenancy, 1, helps reduce the chance of a deposit dispute. It reduces the chance of any miscommunication, like the tenant can't say at the end of the tenancy, oh, I didn't have a chance to provide feedback, when you've given them ample notice to provide feedback and all the tools they need. This is an example report on Inventory Hive of where the tenant has.
The automatic generation of that email which goes out to the inspector, whether that's outsourced or in-house, is really, really useful, because whilst nobody will admit it, what is often the case is the tenant drops it through the door of a branch, but property management's done somewhere else, and actually you never reply to the tenant's comments. You then get to a stage at the end of the tenancy where it's hard to dispute the tenant's comments because you haven't got a trail where you're saying, actually, we've got a picture of the door and it on check-in and it clearly hasn't got the massive dent. Are you sure this hasn't happened when you've been moving your stuff in it? Because you're talking, 6, 12, 18, 24 months later. So the fact that there's reminders for the inspection member of staff, whoever's doing it, to respond immediately probably removes an element of risk from the agent.
I like that point.
provided feedback on the report. So as I scroll down to an example here, you can see here where it's all audit trailed of where the tenant has provided feedback on the report. So for example, on the front door, the letterbox is not fixed properly and it falls us, and the security chain is missing. And it's also added in the photographs from the tenant as well in their report. So again, completely paperless, all audit trailed. And if it ever does go to a dispute, you've got all your evidence clearly outlined at the start of the tenancy.
And what I like about that is, first of all, the process could be actually shown to a landlord and become an instruction when they're on a landlord because of how smooth it is. But secondly, for the lettings agencies that charge a clip on maintenance works, then having all this evidenced that maintenance work is required allows them to go back to the landlord and say, well, we're protecting the value of your assets. You know, it's in your interest to make sure this is all looked after. By the way, we've got a team who can help, and it allows them to generate a bit extra income.
It does. Yeah, that's a really good point in terms of impressing the landlord as well, isn't it? You can only be thoroughly convinced that this agent is going to do the very best efforts to look after their property.
So just to recap, the whole point of the paperless feedback process is to engage with your tenants at the start to reduce the chance of a dispute at the end. It's completely paperless, saving on printing costs and the environment. It's easy to use for the tenant, and the signatures can be captured digitally. The feedback audit trailed with the tenant's feedback and images. It's an automated process, and Inventory Hive will send reminder emails and text messages as well. So it's a really simple process. If you want to try out Inventory Hive and want to learn how it works, all you simply do is go on the Inventory Hive website. You can start.
Don't go on the Inventory Hive website, go on kerfuffle.com.
Well remembered, Paul. Well remembered.
Free 30-day trial where no credit card details are required, so you're under no obligation. We'll provide you with a free training demonstration and put you through our customer success journey. And any Kerfuffle users will also get a 20% discount for your first 6 month subscription. So hopefully that all makes sense. If you want to get in touch with us, do not hesitate to get in touch through the Inventory Hive website at inventoryhive.co.uk, or drop me an email at mitch@inventoryhive.co.uk. So hopefully this all makes sense about how the Inventory Hive paperless process works. It's a seamless process, helped to reduce deposit disputes, hence our relationship with the TDS. Thanks for your time today, and any further questions, do not hesitate to ask. Cheers, guys.
Really good. Just thanks for that, Mitch. By the way, really good comprehensive overview there, wasn't it, of the of what is clearly an impressive bit of kit there, and it's not surprising, I think, having a look at that as to why they did last year, obviously getting those awards. And it, you know, let's be honest, it's not the most exciting of areas, isn't it, as mandatory as it is. So to have so many people, obviously, you know, feel that they should vote for those guys above some of the, let's say, the sexier, blingier bit of PropTech that out there, goes just what a valuable partner they are to so many of their clients.
Yeah, and I think it ticks a lot of boxes, doesn't it? It's that automated piece, so removes the risks of not sending stuff. You've got the paper trail of, you know, how to rent guide, all of the information you must send out. But I think there's also some elements where some agents will be really utilizing it. So could you, for example, 4 weeks before the end of the tenancy, send an email to your tenant saying, remember the link where your inventory is? You should probably just have a walk around the property, putting right any wrongs you've done in the property. And that sort of resolves an argument at the end of the tenancy. But it also means that when you move a new tenant in, there's less issues to deal with, and therefore you're starting your relationship on a positive rather than starting a relationship with a new tenant about the letterbox falling off still and all of these issues which could have easily been resolved.
Really good point. Yeah, really good points there. Yeah. What about yourself, Paul? Thinking you a fan of this? I'm
a fan of it. I think any automation that reduces the admin workload and ensures event success, in this case the inventory being signed, is positive. I like this.
We thought, look at that, short, sharp, powerful. That's the measure of the man there. Okay, so we're all of the opinion. I mean, this should just be any. Sometimes, as we know, some products deviate to smaller independent agents. Some of them look at the corporates. Some are scalable. Some aren't. This one's just. Is there anyone this isn't for?
Anybody who doesn't do lettings.
Thank you for making me look idiotic, Paul. That's very kind. Yeah, absolutely. It's just big tick in the box, isn't it? So we're giving it the 3 thumbs up. Double thumbs up from Paul. Wow, I don't think we've seen that before. Okay, guys. Well, obviously, reach out to Mitch. Do it through Kerfuffle, and you can get the. Did he say it was 25% or 20%? Either way, it's a fantastic saving on that solution for it. And if you want to be using a product that was recognised by so many of the leading agents last year as the best supplier, not just PropTech, the best supplier out there, then these guys look like being the ones to talk to. So reach out in the normal way. Sorry, I thought I was going to say reach out, but that's, again, that glow help there. For today, thank you very much, Mr. Paul Morgan.
You're welcome.
And Richard Durrant, thank you very much, sir.
Take care.
See ya.
Everyone's kerfuffling.